Hey, what's going on, everybody? I started making this video several days ago and it was getting kind of long. So this is going to be a much shorter abbreviated version. If you guys are interested, you can watch the longer version. I'll make sure to put a link at the end of it. In this video, I'm going to show you how I installed brackets onto my CNC to allow me to index the sheets. Not only so I didn't have to square them up every time I put them on and off the bed, but it allows me to take the sheets off and put them back in the exact same spot. That way, if I want to pull the sheet back up in sheet cam, I can still use the remaining portions of the sheet. This should save you a lot of time when loading new sheets. These brackets will allow me to name a piece of steel in sheet cam if I'm not planning on using the whole sheet. Then I can pull it off when I'm done and put it back in the exact same spot when I'm ready to cut another part from that sheet. All I have to do is open the saved job in sheet cam, add the new parts to the sheet, and cut them from the unused portion of the sheet. This is what the brackets look like. I'm going to put the files on file share in case anyone else wants to do it like this. I installed these brackets with 1/4-inch self-tapping screws by screwing them directly into the water pan. Just make sure that you're not too close to the edge of the square tubing when you install the sheet metal screws, or you could create a leak in your water pan. There's going to be 2 versions of the file on FireShare, one with 4 parts and one with 3 parts. I use the 4-part design in my shop. Because I don't have a sheet metal brake in my shop yet, I found it really difficult to bend the fingers up at 90 degrees on the 90-degree piece and still have them be 90 degrees of each other also. If you use the 4-piece design, you can easily put them in a vise and hammer over the fingers. In the final design, I modified the space allowance for the slats to give lots of extra room. However, if you use the 3-piece design, you may have to modify the DXF and move them to where they actually fit your machine, because it's going to be really dependent on how your sheet ends up lining up. I cut these brackets from 14 gauge hot rolled steel and they're very stiff. I don't anticipate them flexing when I load sheet on and off of the CNC. I suggest cutting the brackets first and then loading a brand new sheet of sheet metal onto your CNC, getting it lined up just the way you want. You're going to go ahead and line it up to the home position. You want to home your machine and stick that far left corner dead center underneath your torch. The home position is very important in this process because it's what allows us to index our cuts back to the squares that we're installing on the bed. Sometimes at night when you shut your machine off, it will lose its position and not know where it is. All you have to do is home it back to 0, 0. Then it understands where it is on the CNC relative to the files that you're loading to cut. When we build our sheets in sheet cam, or jobs as they call them, we always reference our material to the front left corner. That's where our brackets are going to go. And what that's going to enable us to do is, even if you're not using a whole 4x8 sheet of material, you'll still be able to change your sheet size in sheet cam relative to what you're doing, and it will still work just the same. A great example of why you might do this is if you're going to cut something out of a 1/2-inch plate and you don't have a forklift, you may need a much smaller size, and that's fine. All you really have to do is in sheet cam, make your material the correct size, orient it to the front left corner, and everything will still work exactly the same. If you continue to follow along and watch the sheet cam tutorial that's in the longer version of this video, you'll notice that there's some mistakes made. There's several versions of the bed square that got cut because one thing didn't work or the other. But another thing you're going to notice is when I started cutting my files, I cut them in the front left corner. That was a mistake. You should always put your first files in the far right corner, furthest away from the bed square. That way, as you work forward and you nest your parts, you'll be able to remove the wire frame from the stuff that you cut out and that way you don't have to load it on and off of the machine multiple times. You can just take whatever usable piece you have left, pull it off the machine and set it aside. That wire frame can go in the trash, recycling, whatever, and then whenever you're ready to use it again, you just pull it back up. Another thing to be mindful of is when you're cutting your parts out of that sheet in sheet cam, you need to try and stay to the right and as far back as you can, because the further forward you come and the further to the left that you go, the chances of you losing your reference surface gets greater and greater. So you need the front and the left side to be able to index your sheet back into the exact same spot. The smaller the sheet, the less it matters, but if you were to cut out the entire left side of the sheet, then it no longer references the square corner. When you're setting up your sheet in sheet cam, go ahead and make a DXF file of what you're going to name your sheet. My first sheet I called 14 gauge number 1. It's the first one that I used after installing the brackets, and that way if I wanted to pull that sheet off of the CNC, I'll know which job that it marries up to in sheet cam to go cut out the remaining portions. In sheet cam, you'll be able to scale that up and down until you start to lose resolution inside of your text, and that's the size of the marking you want. I'm going to put a link at the end of this video to the longer version where it's going to give you a very detailed setup of how to line up your sheet, index it correctly, a tutorial in sheet cam that's going to walk you through the workflow process of creating all your files, parts, and jobs, where you can pull partially used sheets back up on your CNC and cut the rest of the parts out. If you found this helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm going to continue to make CNC videos as I continue to learn more about this plasma CNC machine. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments below, or if you think this video is great, let me know. Thanks for watching.